start here. What I'll do is I'll kind of go over the app A to Z as far as functionality and some of the ways that it can be used, especially since it works offline. I know that there are probably some questions on this as well. If you've got any questions, I just ask that we hold those until the end. I won't take up too much time of your day, but I want to make sure and answer anyone's questions as well. So if it's something that we don't cover and we don't get to on this webinar, after we're finished here as well, I'll send a follow-up to include any answers that we may not have gotten to on the webinar, as long as just something in writing to kind of recap what we talked about during this webinar as well. And I'm just verifying real quick on my side that we've got everybody, and we will get started here. Can everyone see my screen just fine on their computers? I see some nodding, so I'll take that as a yes. All right, good. And I'm actually running this right off of my Android phone. For those of you that don't know or haven't downloaded this yet, the app will work, the Mobile Technician app will work both for Android or Apple. It's available in either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, which we'll send out the links for that as well after this is finished. And the app is available to any users within the main program. So if this is the first time seeing it or it's something you're familiar with, you might know some of the things that we're covering in this, and you might have some feedback as well from your end as far as how you're using it currently within the facility. But this is typically the screen you're going to see when you start that app up. And it's going to ask for the very first time any users logging in for you to put in your company name on that particular application. You can see up there I've got Stark Industries on mine. That company name is then followed by your user credentials that you would typically log into the main system with. So if you're a user in that main web-based app, that's the same credentials you would use there. Once signed in, you'll be able to set this up so that it works with fingerprint ID or facial recognition as well. So if your phone has that capability, use it. It's there. Makes the technician's job a little bit easier. The less times they've got to type in a username and password, the better. So that's generally what I found in my experience with this. On that note, we'll kind of move forward into logging into the app and take a look at best practices as we go through it as well. Now, even though the app works offline, when you sign into it, best practice is to probably go ahead and sync up while you're on network. Regardless of the facility setup, this is usually how I would recommend going through it at the beginning of the day, because it doesn't download your entire database onto the app. It's downloading anything that's on your queue, anything that's assigned to any shops associated with as well. So at the beginning of the day, when you sync it up, make sure you're on that Wi-Fi connection. Make sure you are able to pull anything over from there. But when you first log in, this is the screen that you'll be presented with in the mobile application. And just so everyone has an idea of what we're looking at, everything on the bottom of this page are work orders that are in your queue. In other words, they haven't been started. No one has picked those up yet. And then the ones that are on the top of the screen, those are all work orders that are in your queue and currently being worked on. As you can see, they've got timers going. They've got the ability to sort through any of these based on priority, which is color-coded in the system as well. So one thing I kind of go over with technicians when they're using this for the first time, if you are able to sync everything up before you go out in the facility each day, there are color-coded priorities listed. And I've got a pointer here. It's kind of hard to see here, but right now I'm circling a red priority up here just above the work orders. And if you come in at the beginning of the day and you need to know what you want to work on first, you can select or deselect these priorities and watch that screen filter in real time to show you which work orders may be the most relevant or which ones you should start out with that day. And simply by selecting those again, I'm bringing back that entire list of work orders as well. In addition to being able to pick up any work orders on this system, you can also create new work orders, update any statuses, parts, add photos to it, which we'll go over as well. In the system, any work orders that you want to pick up and actually start work on for the day, it's as simple as clicking on that work order, holding it, and dragging up to the top of the screen. And at that point, you just let go. It'll drop it into that queue, and it'll actually automatically change the status to started for that particular work order. If you need to actually open that up and start your time on it, you simply select it from your task queue and hit Start Timer. You'll be prompted at that point. And it'll begin the clock at that time. It's not the only way to put your time on this. I know that technicians don't always have the opportunity to hit the play button or the pause button, so you can always manually enter in your time for these work orders as well. I think this is the most straightforward way for anyone that is using this on a daily basis, just that play pause button. But once again, if you didn't have an opportunity to do that, on that work order form, you've got many different options that you would have inside the main program. You can change the statuses on it. You've got started, hold, and complete. You can manually enter that time into the system as well. You can add any parts that you want in here, either manually by searching for the part, or you can scan a barcode for that part. Generally, if you're on Wi-Fi connection, you could search for the part, that's no problem, look that up. If you've got the parts barcoded, I find that to be the both on and offline, the best way to actually scan those on. So simply by hitting the plus sign here, right next to parts, it'll actually let you select the part, select the location that you're pulling it from, if it resides in multiple locations, and then the quantity. But also on that work order page, you've got this orange plus sign down at the bottom right. Really, this is a tool that allows you to create anything on the fly in the program, but if you select that, that's where you're going to see the option to scan a part if it's got a barcode or QR code, add signature to your work orders, or add a photo. I know quite a few of the facilities I've worked with that are using the mobile app currently have found some sort of use case if they didn't already require it for the signature capture. Great feature if you need verification on a job completion, or for example from a requester that a job has been completed on their side. Adding the signature to it, once again, just add that signature to allow them to sign with their finger, or if you've got a stylus, you can do that as well. This will show up in the main web-based program as well, associated with that task and work order. The photo part, as it says right there, if I click that, it's just going to open my camera. And of course, you can take a picture of whatever the equipment is that you're working on or the completed job itself. And once again, you'll see that in the web-based app program if that photo is associated with it. Right now, this is the best way to associate a photo with the work orders through the mobile technician app. The main program itself, it's cloud-based. It'll work on any browser. So technically, you could open that on your phone's browser as well and add a photo as an attachment through there, or choose from File and add a photo from your hard drive off of your computer as well. Let's back up here to our main work order screen again. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that orange button does different things on each screen. So once again, on your main home screen here, you've got that orange button in the bottom right. And just like I mentioned before, it's creating things or adding things on the fly if you're going to access that button. In this case, I can create a whole new work order as I'm walking around the facility. It's going to ask you to pick the same main information that you would pick in the main program, the main web-based app. You can also scan an asset. So along with parts and inventory, if you have assets barcoded with QR codes in the program, you can scan that app and scan that asset, and it'll bring up the new work order. It'll auto-populate the fields there with the asset information. I'm going to click on Create New Task in here, and we'll just walk through that as well. The new tasks in here, once again, if you're set up as a multi-site facility, you'll have the option here to choose that and which particular property or building that's going to. And then the main pieces of information we're tracking are the service and the asset on these work orders. So you would then come down, select your service, select your asset, and then fill in any other detailed data that you're going to track throughout that work order. So start dates, due dates, priorities here, which if you've got priorities associated with a default service in the program, it could be set up that way, but you still have the option to manually change that here. That may also be something that you want to make sure in your workflow you are able to dictate what you need that maintenance technician to put in there. Usually if you have a maintenance technician creating these work orders, especially as they're walking the facility, you may want them to or may not want them to have the ability to change priority on stuff. So if that's the case, build it in with the service so that it auto defaults. Otherwise it's open. That technician can change their priority in here as they go. Shops are also here to associate along with maintenance categories, and we can add labor here as well. Now I don't have to assign it to myself. From a managerial or admin perspective too, if you're walking around the facility and created a work order here, you can assign it to another technician in there, but you're not going to be able to access it on that main home screen in here. You're actually going to have to search for it in the mobile app, which we'll take a look at in a moment in order to pull that up. And there we go. I've just added myself on this. I could also keep adding people. It doesn't just have to be one-to-one. You can assign as many people as you need to this particular task in the program. And once we're finished, we're just going to hit the create button here down in the bottom. It's going to give us our task number and work order number down there to confirm that it's been created. And then once again, at the very top of the screen here, if you see this show more button, it's orange, show more, and there's a down arrow. If you hit that, that'll expand that screen so that you can see all of the current work orders and tasks that you currently have in progress. So from the technician side, in the program, you can update anything that you are already working on. You can create new work orders. You can add any detailed information to those work orders, all from this screen. From an admin perspective in this system, up at the very top of the mobile app, you've got these three lines, looks like a hamburger. Those three lines, when you select those, go to the task list on this screen. The task list will actually allow you to filter through all of your work orders based on the same criteria you could in the main program. So from an administrative perspective, if you're walking around, you want to know who's working on what work orders or tasks, or which work orders are open against a certain piece of equipment or a particular type of work. Use these filters here. Look at the drop downs, select those. In this case, we'll look at myself in here. And then down at the bottom, you have an apply option. Once you've applied that in program, once again, the show more button will give you all of those work orders that are currently in the system under that criteria. And I'm going to return back to my home screen here. You'll notice that there are other options here on this profile page as well. We went over the home screen and the task list. The summary page I can briefly touch on here as well. That summary page is going to show you an all-time list of what you completed. And you can clear the cache by selecting them, but this is a way for you to reference that history while you're on the go. You can't reopen it, but you can go in, see all the details on that work order, what was done, what was used, any notes on there as well. If you do need to reopen it or edit that, which is done through most workflows in the main system, just make sure you reference that work order number in order to locate it and then make any additional changes on it. Going back to the home screen, we'll click on that top left box and select home. Once again, this is where we come in at the beginning of the day and we see everything that has been assigned to us in our queue that we can pick up, and then everything that we're currently working on up in the top of the screen. This really concludes, I think, the major workflows within this mobile app. I kind of want to open it up now. If anyone on the call has questions, you can use the chat to ask those. And if there's any particular areas that you're curious about, or you want to see in further detail, now's the time. You can use that chat, and we'll kind of field some of those and see if we can't give you any answers today on the call. And I'll give you a few moments here to type anything like that into the chat. Okay. So I do see one answer here that I can cover pretty quickly. It says, can you add other people's labor to work orders assigned specifically to you? One of the things that I think comes up in here when we're creating a new task is that labor cannot be changed within the mobile app once the task is created. So if you're opening up one that was assigned to you in there, you cannot add other people in it. However, if you're creating from here, then you can absolutely add those other people to it. So really, if you're going to have that function, that needs to be the workflow. It has to be created from the mobile app instead of from the main web-based app program. That would be my best workflow and solution on that. And once again, for anyone that didn't ask the question specifically, I'm going to record these and put them into writing, and I'll send a follow-up afterwards as well. And we'll just wait a few more moments here and see if we get any other questions over. If that is all the questions we have, I'll also, oh, and yes, I am recording it. So that was another question that came up. So I'll have a recording after this as well that I can send your way. But I think it would probably be a good idea as well. If you haven't already seen our YouTube page, check that out. We'll be adding and updating videos about MicroMain Global as well to that page. And a comprehensive video on this, I think, should be coming shortly. I'll include a link to that as well in the follow-up. Let me see here if there's any other questions. I don't see any right now. Let's see. And also, if you have some input on the next webinar, because this is the first one we're doing, if there are specific things that you would like to see on the webinar, please let us know. Those are the questions we want to answer. And most likely, if you're asking it, other people are asking it as well. So if you've got that information that you want to send back to us, you're more than welcome to reply to the follow-up. And we will have that included in our next webinar discussion. And use that to kind of really drive the target of that next webinar. But I really appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you for coming out and spending a few minutes of your day to go over this mobile app. We're excited to have you all on board, or at least asking questions and getting engaged in the product. But once again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Please be safe and stay healthy. And be on the lookout. We will be sending a follow-up to this shortly afterwards. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.